All right. Welcome, 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 welcome. I am delighted, to say the least, to be here present to moderate this wonderful panel of our esteemed female dean. I just would like to let those who are on this call for the first time to know that this has become a tradition at Tuskegee, that every month of March, for the celebration of the wonderful works of our female deans, we organize this conversation on different themes to have them tell us about what they do. I know it is, for some students, they don't even know how many. I just gave a test to one of my classes the other day, asking them, how many of your deans at Tuskegee are women? I can tell you, I can attest publicly, not up to 5 students in my class could count the deans. And I felt so bad because our students, by the time they leave Tuskegee, they should know those who do the work, the heavy lifting at Tuskegee. So having said this, I would like to welcome everybody in attendance and thank you all for following through, coming on, and for your unrelenting support for the activities of the Tuskegee University Interdisciplinary Seminar Series. Also, are some stakeholders that support this event, and I would like to name them: the Andrew Mellon Foundation, the Tuskegee University Faculty Senate, the Pan-African Writers Association, Writers of African Origins in the Diaspora, the Tuskegee University Office of the Provost, the National Park Services, the College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Agriculture, Environment, Nutrition, and Nutrition Sciences, the Department of Modern Languages, Communication, and Philosophy, as well as our deans, many of whom are on the call. And I want to give a special shout out to all the deans on the call, besides the women dean we're talking to. So having acknowledged our sponsors, I would just like to do a little bit of housekeeping and remind us that this platform for the Interdisciplinary Seminar Series is one where we bring first our public intellectuals, our scholars, our poets, writers, novelists, activists, spiritual, moral, community leaders, to help shed light on some of the challenges posed by the world that we know today that has been turned upside down. So today we have this opportunity to talk to our esteemed deans. And I would like to call on some of our own young and brightest female students on the path to their rising stars. And I would like them to tell us about our deans. I will call on them one after the other to do the introduction of our deans, and then we will go from there and hear from our deans. So let's begin. Those who would be reading the bios are Miss Elena Zelaya and Miss Denisha Jones. So could you come up and be on camera? Be sure to be on camera. Thank you.
Dr. Olga U. Bolden Tiller is the Dean of the College of Agriculture, Environment, and Nutrition Sciences and the 1890 Research Director at Tuskegee University. She holds a BS in Agricultural Sciences from Fort Valley State University and a PhD in Animal Sciences and Reproductive Biology from the University of Missouri, Columbia, followed by NIH Fellowship training at the University of Texas, MD Anderson Career Center. Joining Tuskegee University in 2005, she has served in multiple leadership roles, including coordinator of the Animal, Poultry, and Veterinary Science Program and Assistant Dean of Development. She has built extensive domestic and international partnerships supporting sustainable agriculture research, teaching, and extension. Dr. Bolden Tiller has directed numerous NSF and USDA-funded undergraduate research programs and longstanding pre-college initiatives such as AgriTrek and Ag Discovery. She also leads the Alabama Youth Institute in partnership with the World Food Prize Foundation and serves as TU's leader for the 1890 Center of Excellence for Student Success and Workforce Development. Her research focuses on molecular mechanisms of gonadal function and the use of AI and machine learning in livestock production, supported by USDA, NSF, HHMI, SARE, FR, and other sponsors. She has mentored more than 70 students and authored numerous scholarly publications. An active leader in professional societies, she has held roles in Manners, the Society for the Study of Reproduction, the National Goat Consortium, the 1890 Association of Research Directors, and the APLU Board on Agriculture Assembly. Her many honors include the Russell Brown Distinguished Scientist Award and the World Food Prize Foundation's Inspiring the Next Generation Award. She is an Hours Fellow, a graduate of multiple national leadership programs, and the proud mother of Carlton with her husband, Tony.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
afternoon.
you.
My name is Denasia Jones. I'm a junior English Language Arts education major, and it's an honor to introduce my very own dean, Dr. Burks. Dr. Brooke A. Burks is Dean of the School of Education at Tuskegee University. Prior to her arrival in August 2025, Dr. Burke served in a number of roles at Auburn University at Montgomery, including Associate Dean of the College of Education, Department Chair of Curriculum Instruction and Technology, and Chief Diversity Officer. She also spent the first 11 years of her career as a high school English teacher. Dr. Burks conducts research on pre-service teachers and presents on a variety of topics, including DEI, pre-service teacher assessment, and technology. She has published a novel titled Tawanda's Quest and also contributes as copy editor to several publications, including the Urban League of Louisiana State of Black New Orleans, 10 years post-Katrina. She currently serves as president of the Alabama Association of Colleges for Teacher Education, the immediate past president of the board for the Family Guidance Center of Alabama, and a member of the board for the Montgomery Habitat for Humanity. She has been the voice of the Pueblo Chieftain, the Douglas County News Press, and the Windsor Life newsletter as a volunteer for Aftersight, an organization that produces accessible content for the visually impaired. A native of Mobile, Alabama, Dr. Burks earned a bachelor's in English Language Arts education at Tuskegee University and both her master's and PhD in English education at Auburn University.
Now introducing the next speaker, Cordelia C. Nedu. I'm sorry if my pronunciation is off. She's the Dean of the School of Nursing and Allied Health at Tuskegee University. Dr. Cordelia N. Nedu has a broad background in managing the care of women across their lifespan. In clinical practice, she serves as nurse midwife and a women's health nurse practitioner. She is dedicated to caring for all women, regardless of their background, with a special commitment to those who are most vulnerable. One of her key research interests focus on identifying strategies that promote positive pregnancy outcomes, with particular emphasis on improving outcomes for pregnant women with hypertension and diabetes. She developed the Future Nurses of America organization mentorship program and has secured more than $3,900,000 in grant funding to support minority students pursuing careers in professional nursing. As a member of the Tuskegee University community, she values working with students and faculty in the shared mission of increasing minority representation in the nursing workforce. Professor N. Nadu brings over 20 years of successful experience in grant writing, leadership, and research, along with 43 years of academic teaching experience.
Our next dean, Dr. Gilbreth, is the Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine at Tuskegee University. She was previously appointed interim dean on June 3rd, 2025. Prior to this appointment, she has served as the Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs for the college after serving as Interim Associate Dean for Academic Affairs during the beginning of the spring 2023 semester. She is a board-certified veterinary anatomic pathologist who has served on the faculty at Tuskegee University since 2011. She previously served as the Assistant Dean for Preclinical Programs, Department Head of Pathobiology for 3 years, and served as the Section Chief of Necropsy as the Diversity and Inclusion Representative for the college. Dr. Gilbert has been awarded multiple grants, published numerous manuscripts, and has advised PhD, master's, and undergraduate students. Additionally, she has been the faculty advisor for 7 student groups, serves on numerous committees, and notably chaired for the first Phi Zeta Research Day in 2012. Dr. Gilbreth has continually sought to foster her leadership skills and has earned an executive certification in leadership and management, a certification for diversity and inclusion in veterinary medicine, and has completed the AAVMC Leadership Academy as well as veterinary leadership experience. Prior to joining the faculty at Tuskegee, Dr. Gilbert earned her bachelor's degree in animal and poultry science in 2000, followed by her doctor's of veterinary medicine degree in 2004. Both from Tuskegee University, she completed an internship in anatomic pathology, also at Tuskegee, and then went on to Michigan State University, where she completed a residency in anatomic pathology and a PhD in pathology, before returning to her alma mater in 2011.
Our next dean is Dr. Dolores Alexander, who's Dean of Graduate School and Professor in Microbiology and Molecular Biology and the Director of Integrative Biosciences PhD program at Tuskegee University. Dr. Alexander has been intimately involved in the launching of Tuskegee's PhD program in Integrative Biosciences, which seeks to address the lack of well-trained graduate-level U.S. scientists. Serving as the program director, she has worked with integrative teams in procuring grants to cover student training and to improve institutional and research infrastructure. The IBS program has provided a mechanism for fostering a more intensive biomedical research and training atmosphere at Tuskegee. Dr. Alexander has many research interests, all related to microbial ecology. This area of research has implications for biomedical challenges as well as agricultural and biofuels applications. Dr. Alexander, who also serves as the Deputy Director for Research for Tuskegee University's Health Disparities Institute for Research and Education, has additionally been actively involved in research that seeks to reduce health disparities as it relates to the Alabama Black Belt counties. Dr. Alexander is also a joint faculty member in the College of Agriculture, Environment and Nutrition Sciences, and the College of Veterinary Medicine and Allied Health. Her research fields are parasitology and health disparities.
And for our final dean, Dr. Catherine Armwood is Dean of Robert Taylor School of Architecture and Construction Science at Tuskegee University in Alabama. She has been Dean of the School of Architecture and Construction Science since August 2025. Prior to coming to Tuskegee, she served as Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Studies at the College of Engineering at Tennessee State University. Her engineering research focuses on masonry and cementitious structures and sustainability. She also studies methods to broaden participation in STEM, workforce development, service learning, and professional development for faculty and students. Dr. Armwood holds a bachelor's degree in architectural engineering from Tennessee State University and a PhD in the same discipline from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
Thank you very, very, very much for this wonderful presentation of our deans. I would like to start again by welcoming you once again and saying good morning, as I always say. We want to welcome you to this conversation with leading visionary deans, women who are shaping the future of higher education. Given that we have this privilege of listening to them, I would just go right ahead and allow them to take turns. I'm not going to call in any order, but I'll throw my conversation or my talking points, take turns, and just tell us a little bit. Maybe in the bios, there are things that were left out you might want to tell us. And I would like to ask this to our esteemed deans. Each of you lead with a powerful sense of purpose. There is no question about it. And what our audience would like to hear is what core visions guides you and your role as dean? And how do you keep that vision alive in the day-to-day demands of academic leadership?
Well, good evening. I guess I will start us
Our,
off. Um, Thank you, Dr. Indy, for the invitation, and thank you, Denasia, for that great introduction. I greatly appreciate it. Um, so you asked about our vision, and I guess what really guides us in our deanship. And
yeah.
I think for me, one of my personal goals is to change the negative narrative around what it means to be an educator. Think today, in today's day and age, a lot of times students are discouraged from wanting to go into education by other teachers and by society as a whole. People talk about, oh, kids are bad and you're not going to make money, and those, not all of that is very true. Not all of that is true. There have been some great efforts in the state of Alabama to raise teacher salaries, which they've done once again during this legislative session. So we are glad to see another 2% increase for teachers this year. Um, and as far as, kids being who they are, I mean, their parents are going to send you the children that they have. They're not going to keep the good ones at home and send you, who they have. So, but it's all about relationship and about, building rapport with not just the students, but their parents and the entire community. So there are ways to work with every student that's out there. So that's kind of my personal goal. My vision is really to change that negative narrative. And drive more people into the field of education because it is a great field to be in, and there are so many skills and that are marketable in other arenas. Should you choose, 20 years down the line to go into something different. So that's my vision.
Well, thank you very much for that
Chime
vision.
in.
Yes, you come in, Dr. Nato.
Thinking about vision, I just want to see myself as the servant, not the prophet. We all know that a machine cannot work without its parts. So my vision is including everybody in what I do. Communication is very, very important. What vision do I see for SONA? We have a two-professional program, nursing and occupational therapy, and then we have added a health science. I want to see students come in and graduate. What is our on-time graduation rate? What vision do I have since I have a two-professional program, I have to think about accreditation. I have to think about approval by the board. I have to think about board scores. I have to think about when these students graduate, what vision do I have for them? Can they find employment? Can they compete with people that look like them and what have you? So I like to empower people. I like to lead by example. And then looking at small wins, people like to be acknowledged, no matter what they did or didn't do, no matter how small. Just acknowledge them, and kind of people feel happy when you acknowledge what they're doing, no matter how small that is. So my vision is to continue to move the School of Nursing and Allied Health to maintain full accreditation, maintain full approval by their respective boards, look at their box, make sure their board score is where it's supposed to be. That's my goal.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next thing.
Dr. Bolden Tiller, I think you're on mute if you're talking.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today. And I would echo Dr. Naidu with regard to service. I think service is one of the most important things that you have to be committed to as a visionary. I remember when one of my relatives passed away in his 90s, the song that was sung at his funeral was "If I Can Help Somebody, Let My Living Not Be in Vain." And that always resonated with me. And coming here to Tuskegee University, which is an institution committed to serving others from its inception, I think is very important. And so it allows me to be in a place, no matter my title as a faculty member, as a dean, or whatever the position may be, to be in a place where I'm able to serve and to be an example to others, to show our students how to serve. I think that one of the second qualities that's a part of my vision is around responsibility. We have a responsibility for our community, a responsibility to our students, as well as to our other constituents and clientele within communities, to make sure that we are carrying on the legacy on which this university was established, but the legacy that we all have from our families and whatnot that have supported us and that continue to support us all in the work that we do in whatever positions that we may be in, from being a student to a faculty member, to a staff member, to an administrator here at this institution.
Thank you very, very much. Very insightful.
I can go next.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Did you have something?
No, that's okay, Dr. Amwood. You go.
All right. So when I approach this opportunity, or when I approach anything that I am venturing into, my vision is to come in, see where things are, and figure out how to elevate, advance, and increase opportunity. Ultimately, I think Dr. Bolden Tiller said the key word is service. And honestly, that's 100% a driving force behind what I do. It's always the conversation of, why are you at HBCUs? Why are you at Tuskegee? And it's really about servicing our people, right? Finding the space that builds our community, getting the students out and providing them with opportunities in our 4 or 5 year programs that they are invested in, to understand that they are not confined to one direction. Build skills that make them marketable in any space they want to be in, and make them competitive. There's a narrative of the HBCU culture and the students in some ways that needs to change. And every time a student graduates out of TU and goes out into the world and speaks about what they're capable of doing, what they know, their knowledge, then that changes the narrative of what we have at our institutions and what people know we're capable of doing. And so when I approach Robert R. Taylor TSACs, my vision is to, when a student comes out, either architect, construction, and we have design now, that they don't just know their individual discipline,
but they know how their discipline interacts with every other discipline in the field of which they're going into. And so you can go in there and you can work with any person that works in the built environment. And I want them to understand that. And then if you have certain skills, and it's not always about the technical skills, the vision is that you have the skills, whether it's communication, whether it's the ability to write, whether it's the ability to think critically. You can survive and you can be successful in any space you go into, and even if you transition. And so I want to make sure, my vision is always that any student that I interact with, any program that I'm responsible for, that those students come out with that vision and understanding. And so is my leading vision every time I approach any type of program.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I can go next. I've always been one for making sure everybody has a voice, that everybody is seen, and that everybody feels empowered to go after what they're dreaming about doing. As a child, I didn't always feel like everybody heard me or saw me. And certainly, as curious as I was about science, a lot of the people that I saw out there didn't look like me at all. And I wasn't certain that a person who looked like me and came from my background could function in science at a high level. But I was empowered by people from the university who told me I could achieve. It was motivating to see people who wanted to do what I thought I wanted to do, and they were actually really good at it. And they were from my culture. They shared some of my views. And then the more I found voice and visibility, the more I gained confidence that I could actually one day work at an institution, be a part of the academy, and be a scientist with my own lab. And so I want to make sure my students have that same access. I want them to have a voice. I want them to see the world, but also be seen. I want them to be visible. And I want them to have the confidence that comes from being at an HBCU. We do that wraparound mentoring thing where we support the students as they are, but we help them and propel them to get to places that they've always aspired to be. So I want them to have the confidence of knowing that they are enough, that they matter, and that all of the fights and struggles that people have gone through to give them access, that those were worthwhile, and that they now have access to things that people once only dreamed about. And to Dr. Armwood's point, every time I see a student graduate, every time I see somebody who's the first one in their family to ever go to college, walk across the stage, or the first person in their family who to earn the doctorate, to finally get theirs, I know what that means to their community because I know what it meant to mine. And so what continues to drive me is seeing how successful we've become and our students have become at showing the world that not only can they do this, that they're doing this in great fashion. And so that continues to propel me and to push me to make sure more people have that same access that I had and that my parents had before they came to Tuskegee.
Wow. Thank you. Dr. Gilbreth? Is Dr. Gilbreth on the call?
Dr. Gilbert, she may have stepped away. She's at the vet symposium, and so she has a lot to do.
All right.
Memory.
And then no problem.
She's asked us to cover for her if we need to.
Yes. I would really like to thank you all because listening to your vision and purpose statements, 3 words come to mind: service, visibility, success, mentorship, wanting to give back to the community. This is very important. And I might just inject myself into this conversation because I just came back from a 2-day conference from the University of South Alabama dealing with changes that are taking place in higher education, especially the fact that the legislature is trying to legislate their way into our classrooms. And there is a law that they want to push down. They want to have it passed as fast as possible they call HB 580. With higher education undergoing these rapid changes, I just wonder, you as lead, you have been transformational leaders from the very get-go, because from just listening to you, I know your idea of service is transformational service. It is not service for the sake of service. So what I'm asking you is to tell us what transformational leadership mean to you, and if there are moments when you had to step boldly into that role of being a transformational leader. Anybody could start.
Well, I'll start again. Um, I think being a transformational leader um, means being willing to step outside of your comfort zone. And for me, it's stepping outside of my comfort zone. I'm an introvert posing as an extrovert. Um, so sometimes it means stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things that, in your personal life, you probably typically wouldn't do. Um, and not being afraid to say the things that need to be said, or to do the things that need to be done for the good of your students, for the good of the community, and what have you. An example that comes to mind, it's a kind of a simple example, but um years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, when this teacher performance assessment first came on the scene. So it's called EdTPA. All of our interns have to do this during their internship, and it's externally evaluated by Pearson. And so if they don't pass it, then they are not certified until they do pass it. And so it takes a long time to grade and all that good stuff. So I was the EdTPA coordinator at my institution, and it was just coming on the scene, and nobody liked it. Nobody wanted it. Everybody griped and complained and said, "This is ridiculous. You know they're going to change this in 5 years. They're not going to stay with it, because everything in education always changes. And so this is going to be one of those things that comes and goes, and nobody's going to care." But I felt like, okay, these folks have put me in this role as this EdTPA coordinator, and we all have got to learn what this is so that we can teach it to our students. Because even if they change it 5 years from now, these students right here have to do it. And so just having those conversations, having training sessions, leading people through this process of, okay, it was really like the 5 stages of grief. They first had to accept it. They wanted to, say that it wasn't going to happen, and they had to, accept, okay, it's going to happen. I still don't like it, but okay. And then we grew to not necessarily love it, but we did grow to learn what it was about. And now, 10 years later, it's still here. So it didn't change in 5 years. But now we're better for it, and our students are better for it, because now we know what we're doing, we know what it is. And so just being able to lead through change that doesn't really feel good, that you may not believe in at first, but there's some value to it. I actually think that EdCPA is a good measure of teacher performance. It's probably a controversial, statement for some, but there's value in it. So I just think that's one example of, leading through change that, may not necessarily feel good, but it has to happen. And you have to figure out a way to get everybody on the same page. And I think that a leader figures out how to do that without destroying morale, and without, destroying the institution itself.
My goodness.
Thank you.
I see academia as very fluid. I don't see it as static, especially those of us in healthcare. Things change all the time. So when I look at transformational leader, I see them acting as an agent of change. Most of the time, people don't like change, especially when they are used to doing certain things. So one thing that comes to mind in terms of a change or stepping in there is introducing something we call developing a policy. For example, if 60% of the students are not successful in a test, the faculty must reteach and retest. Reteach and retest. And that has been working, but that didn't last up to a semester. I had to go back again and take that off. Because when you're dealing with leadership and when you're dealing with change, you constantly have to be evaluating, constantly have to be assessing, what am I doing wrong? What am I going to do to make it better? And things like that. And communication also is wonderful. You can't, we can't avoid that. Listening to teacher, listening to students, listening to faculty, and listening to staff. We came up with that policy. And then what students are now doing is, if we have any exam that 70, 80% of them were successful, those that are not successful, I don't know if to call it fighting those, oh, because of you, they're not going to reteach. Because of you, they're not going to retest, which is not really what the intention of that policy. So we have come back to, if you need help, see your teacher for help. So nothing is static, it's continue to move forward. And I see transformational leaders, what I see them do and what I try to emulate from that model is empowering others to see themselves as architects of the future. Look at challenges and face it back on. Don't look at things. Try not to manage. There's something we say moves beyond managing what is to nurturing what can be. There are certain things that can be. What do we see in that student? What is the likelihood that they're going to be successful in the NCLEX exam? In our program, Tuskegee promises to give you the bachelor's degree. Tuskegee promises to give you the master's in occupational therapy if you meet the requirement. Those degrees in bachelor's in nursing and master's in occupational therapy is not going to give you a job. You still have to sit for the licensure exam. For nurses, you have to be RN to practice anywhere. For occupational therapists, you have to be certified to be a therapist to practice. So that's why our program is kind of, sometimes students see it as hard. They want us to maintain the status quo, but things keep changing in healthcare. As things changes, our curriculum is very fluid, it changes. But when they graduate and enter the workforce, we are getting these wonderful letters that all the new grads that are performing at a higher level than their counterparts. That is really encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you much.
And so transformational leadership or transformational change is defined as a radical system-wide overhaul of an organization's strategy, structure, culture, or technology, moving it to an entirely new state. And a good leader may come in and do transformational change. However, a good leader has been observing what has been happening within an organization and has been thinking about how they can improve that organization. And when the opportunity brings itself forward, they will go in and do transformational change. I think transformational change and a leader having the wherewithal to implement transformational change is very important, especially in today's society, because things are changing so quickly and so rapidly that if we don't keep up, then or get ahead, we will be left behind. And so I believe that transformational change is critical to the success of an organization. But what's most important is that you have leadership that has strategized, that has observed, the organization, and so they can come in and do transformational change without having to be overly disruptive, but seeking to have broad improvement for the organization. And I hope that I'm that type of leader, and I like that I work with individuals who are those types of leaders. We see that happening now at the university as we enter our Renaissance era. I like to think of it the new Tuskegee of old, because a lot of the things that we talk about that have put us in a spotlight as a successful institution were at the core and the basis and foundation for the establishment and the excitement and all of the successes of the university.
I would agree with that. But I also think transformational leadership should be displayed in things looking differently than they did once you arrive and you have a chance to work. As an example of that, I once had a department head tell me, I really wish there were more African American women in this department. She said, when I first got here, I was the only one. And now that I'm about to leave, I'm still the only one. And then I thought about it. I said, but haven't you hired all of the faculty in this department for the last 30 years? She had had the power the whole time to change, to transform the environment, and she didn't do it. So while she might have been transformational in some things, the very thing that she complained about, she did absolutely nothing to change. And so at the end of the day, at the end of her tenure, her space wasn't transformed that much. She'd made some different edicts when it came to policies and those kinds of things. But the thing she first was passionate about when she entered the academy, which was making sure more people from her community were represented, never changed. And it was totally under her control the whole time. So I think transformational leaders don't just observe problems and see things that are happening, but they change it so that when they leave, they've left their footprint, they've left their mark upon it. It is better when they leave it than it was when they found it. And I think if you're truly transformational, that every place you've been will be marked by that character.
I don't know if there's much else I could say. All you guys said everything there. But second, everything that everyone has said about transformational leader. Honestly, it's practicing the skills of assessing, coming up with a solution, implementing, and assessing that thing that you implemented. Did it work? And if it's not working, what's your issues? How do you address them? And so, similar to what Dr. Alexander is saying and everyone else, one of the major things of transformational leadership is making sure that you're not allowing things to change around you, and you're not changing too, right? How can you lead in a whole school or college and graduate students in a space that you haven't evolved to reflect the space they're going into? And so sometimes that is changing. A lot of times that is often changing in the real world, and we get stuck in higher ed, not evolving either. And in that sense, we are not preparing our students to where they need to be. So I think when it comes to transformational leadership, it's about assessing where things are right now, looking at where your school or your program stands, and where can you make changes? How can you get them where they need to be? How do you meet that marketability, that threshold of, graduating employment, highly employed students and so forth? And because one of the major things, and I think this may segue into something else, one of the major things is that I stated this earlier in a conference. Higher ed changes per leadership. And it's not it's per leadership at your institution. It's per leadership of the United States. It's all changing continuously. And a transformational leader can work and operate and grow in any space, regardless of how it changes around them.
Thank you very, very much. Since Dr. Gilbreth is not here, I'll just continue listening to you talk about transformational leadership. I'm just so moved because we live in this day and age. Everybody is complaining about AI, how it is going to take over. And the complaints actually takes me back to a time when we felt robotics robots were going to replace humans. They were going to take our jobs. They were going to do this. So I know as a leader, you are thinking about innovation. You are already thinking about what is going to happen in the next decade, the next 10 years. So I'd just like to find out from you how you are driving innovation with your respective college or school. It could be in curriculum, it could be in research, it could be in student support, it could be in faculty development, or even the relationship between the college and all other colleges. I would just like to hear from you how you drive innovation with you. Thank you.
I think I can start on this one. So as we look to the next decade, 2026 to 2036, driving innovation requires all kinds of things. It requires transforming our curriculum, research support system, and what have you. And you guys must have heard in the news, sometimes we're trying to shift from the regular thing we normally have, 4-year college. There are other ways people can be who they want to be without accumulating a lot of loan. Anybody, for example, anybody that wants to be a nurse don't have to start with baccalaureate degree in nursing. The person can start with being a nursing assistant and then moving gradually to become an LPN. After LPN, they can go to community college and get associate degree. It's the same licensure exam all registered nurses write in the United States. Most hospitals, when you're working for them as an associate degree registered nurse, they pay for you to go back to school to get your bachelor's degree. So that's one way in terms of a changing curriculum, making it flexible. One way for future readiness in terms of one pathway to move things forward. Another thing is we just started EMT program at SONA. That's one way students who are suffering, education is very high now, and this program is 1 semester. At the conclusion of this 1 semester, they can take the certificate exam. If they are successful, they are EMTs. So they can practice, earn money, and still go to school. A few weeks ago, we signed an agreement, and that agreement is with the Alabama Board of Nursing, Baptist Health System, Alabama Office of Apprenticeship, and Tuskegee University for apprenticeship program. That's one way we are moving, one way to cut on costs. The unique thing about this apprenticeship program, it provides our students with hands-on on a daily basis. Students are able to go to clinical, being assigned a Baptist nurse, working with these students on one-to-one. They are being paid by Baptist. They are also getting Tuskegee credit hour as they do this. So in terms of financial barriers, sometimes students leave school, not because they're not doing well in the class, but they leave school because of non-academic variables. And the major thing in that non-academic variable is money. So with this program, if there's any money left from financial aid money, Baptist will give them the scholarship to make up for that. So this program is going to be starting in this summer with the students who are completing foundation this spring semester. So that's where things are going. That's where things are looking in this coming up 10 years. Instead of seeking into that 4-year degree, accumulating loan, they are looking at other avenues to accommodate some of the people who are unable to. So we're not going to be looking at the 18 to 22-year-olds anymore if this plan works. So people can finish raising their children, they can go and get their LPN and begin to work. And then once you enter the hospital, that hospital or healthcare facility wants to retain you. So they always offer scholarship for LPNs to get their RON associate degree. And then RON to BSN is not really too much hassle. It's a lot easier to get. So that's one way we're looking at that. Creating programs. So people, modular learning programs. So people are not going to be thinking, oh, 4 more years, I have 6 children. That's not the goal we're looking at now. And in terms, Dr. Onidi mentioned research. In terms of research, interdisciplinary research. When you guys had my bio, I'm a women's health people. My license plate says women for life. That's who I am. When we talk about what is happening in the community or what is happening in the state of Alabama, we do know that maternal mortality is very high, especially in the underserved area. And we're looking at why is it high in minority areas, especially Blacks. We look at cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes, which are really the focus of my research. Now, people with diabetes and people with high blood pressure or cardiovascular disease, if we're doing research, interdisciplinary research is the key because we want to bring the physiologists, we want to bring the nutritionists, dietitians, we want to bring nurses, we want to bring occupational therapists into the picture to find out what type of things can we do. What our main goal is to decrease this mortality or eradicate it completely. And apart from doing that, involving people in the community, because those that live in the community know themselves. We researchers don't know them. So since they know themselves, joining in that research activity is definitely going to help cut down on the mortality and cut down or decrease it or eradicate it completely. That's how I see that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nadeau. Let's hear from your, the next colleague, the next day.
Kind of follow it up with what Dr. Nadeau was talking about on the research aspect. I think that's, definitely where we're looking to innovate is in our research. Education has been done pretty much the same way for 100 years, with the exception of, now people can go to school online, um, take asynchronous courses. And while that does seem appealing to many, we do know that struggling students do, perform less well than those who are, stellar students. So struggling students in an asynchronous online class, it doesn't really bode well for them in most circumstances. So, even though we have some of these, innovative ideas, we're going to take everything online and, that's great in some arenas, but not great in all. So to, conduct research on ways that we can innovate in education and figure out what works best for particular groups of students, I think is where we're definitely, what we're definitely doing to figure out what's the best way to innovate. So I think research is definitely important because we want to strengthen students' outcomes and not harm them just because, something is more convenient than another method. And then with artificial intelligence, our job as teachers, yes, we're going to use the artificial intelligence. Yes, our students are already using the artificial intelligence, but it's our duty and our responsibility to teach folks how to responsibly use this artificial intelligence. So I think that that's something that we have, that we're already getting on top of and trying to further that. So.
I'll go next. As far as innovation and forward thinking, we are innovation and so resource wise, when there's limitations in resources, finding creative ways to do collaborations or partnerships or industry investments in order to increase resources for our students and faculty as a whole. Trying to develop some, since faculty do not have salary over the summer, looking at the possibility of making some type of strategic program between some of the industry where our faculty can come work for them in the summer, or they could be a fellow. So trying to create things like that. Also trying to increase research out of TSACs, which at the current moment, we have some research, not very much. And so bringing the narrative and training faculty to understand how to look for research, how to prepare their research portfolio, how to develop grant proposals, the different agencies that they can potentially submit to, because I think the limitations of looking at it from a design and construction standpoint, it's hard to understand where the faculty feel like they fit. And so being innovative in finding spaces where we can actually get some research conducted and produced. Another way that we're trying to approach this is looking at curriculum wise, how do you incorporate or teach students AI in the field? What's happening as far as robotics and art technology increases and changes in the field, and bringing that into the classroom? Engaging those companies to come do sessions to train students on those particular components, whether it's software, whether it's just equipment and so forth. How do we get them to bring it to campus so students get hands-on experience? And I believe the other aspects of that is looking at the curriculum in a way that we may offer more certification. So even if you graduate with a 4-year degree, you can take a couple of hours, not maybe don't need to say this on here, but strategically tailored, maybe not paid for, but available um, workshops that lead to additional certification for a student in order for them to graduate and not just say, I have this degree, but I have this degree with some extra skills and training in these spaces, whether that's a foreman or a superintendent, whether it's in a certain system related to building, or whether it's being a certificate in Revit or a deep design or something of the sort. So those are some of the ways we're approaching that concept of innovation and forward thinking in TSACs.
Thank you. Wonderful. Next.
The chapel.
And I would say, from the College of Ag standpoint, I think innovation is just really important all around. And what's most important is that we stay on top of innovation and that we are moving forward and at the front of innovation in terms of research. In the College of Agriculture, we have the benefit of having numerous graduate programs. So our faculty have support in terms of conducting research continuously in all of our disciplines within the College of Agriculture. And it's important for our students to be a part of that, even as undergraduates, in addition to students who are in graduate programs as well. But what's most critical, as I indicate, is that we stay on top of it and that we're not just conducting research here locally, that our faculty and students are going out, being a part of the academy in all of its glory in terms of presenting their research findings at national and international conferences, and making sure that we are utilizing the cutting edge research technologies, that we're collaborating with other top individuals in our fields so that we can make sure that we're pushing our disciplines forward. This is so very important and a hallmark of the university. Again, I talk about legacy, and George Washington Carver is a perfect example of that legacy, being on the cutting edge of research, making sure, though, that we're doing research that answers questions and issues that are associated with our communities and beyond is very important. And some of the new technology, of course, is artificial intelligence. We had a chance to demonstrate some of the artificial intelligence work that we're doing in the College of Agriculture. We have some different robots and whatnot. But most importantly, I want our students, as well as our faculty and staff, to remember that when we talk about these advantages and advances, especially around technology, we don't just want to be users of that technology. We also want to be creators and entrepreneurs associated with that technology. The academy is just one small part of society. We want to make sure that we are working hard to make sure that our communities are benefiting economically from the work that we're doing when it comes to research and innovation.
Thank you. Dr. Alexander?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Bowden Tiller, and I had a chance to see some of the work that was presented at a recent meeting with Amazon, and they're doing amazing things in Canes, and the other deans are following suit. In the graduate school and with the graduate classes and curricula, we're trying to make some partnerships as well, not only with Amazon, but with Google and with other people who are involved in AI, with some of our defense agencies. And so you'll be hearing about some of those coming up soon. In addition, and then we rely on our students, I think, to introduce us to a lot of technology. You know, the students that we get now are born in an AI-enabled society where AI is now, just commonplace. They use AI to do all kinds of things, drive their cars, to, work with their telephones, to work on their computers, to achieve regular activities in life. And so often it's the students who bring the technology into the classroom, either because it allows them to do work faster, or because it allows it to be more efficient, or because the AI can do some things that they can't do manually. And then not to mention the research that we have on campus that involves AI. When the students make presentations, they're part of our science fairs, when they're mentoring our summer students, when they're performing science fairs in the community, they not only bring AI, into our classrooms, they take it out and extend it into the surrounding communities. I'm particularly grateful for Tuskegee University Cooperative Extension, because then a lot of the things that we have on campus are taken out into, at least 22 of the counties in the state of Alabama by our students, by our faculty, and by our county agents. And so AI is a part of our lives, and we embrace it at Tuskegee University, especially in the graduate programs and in our research areas.
Wow, thank you. When I listen to you talk, I'm really, really motivated. It is like there are things I have heard in the past as a kid growing up where they say, if you're a black man, you have to work twice as hard. But if you're a black woman, you have to work 5 times as hard. You have to prove yourself, right? And I'm looking at all 6 of you sitting before me, wondering about the barriers that you've had to overcome with a lot of courage. And I would just like to ask that as women leaders, there is no question that you navigate unique challenges. Can you just share with our audience a barrier that you encounter and a strategy, mindset, or support system that help you to navigate or to rise above it with strength and confidence?
I think I'll start off. And so for me, I think it's just my faith. I'm a big believer and have a strong faith. I feel like I was pre-prepared for challenges to the point that I don't even know that I'm having challenges sometimes or barriers. I always live by John 4:4 that says, greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. So if something's not quite going my way, I just know to keep moving forward. Um, do me a little prayer. And I tell people I live by 2 things, the serenity prayer. So I know that sometimes there are things that I can't change, so I don't frustrate myself about it. And then I just keep my mustard seed of faith, and just know that things will turn out for the best as long as I'm doing the right things for the right reasons.
Thank you.
I second that. Um, prayer is definitely of utmost importance. There have been, many situations, probably too many to name, challenges to overcome, even with myself. Many of us probably at some point or another have suffered from imposter syndrome. Um, but even with that, I mean that's a self thing to overcome. But much prayer definitely helps, and it works. And I look at every situation as a learning opportunity. And everything that I have experienced has led me to this point. And it has always, everything. I'm an observer. I observe people, I observe things, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I want to do something like this, or I don't want to do that. And those observations have been some of my greatest teachers. Just observing things. And so even though the situation may not be pleasant, I know, okay, I'm going to learn something from this. So what am I learning? And Lord, you got to help me learn it. Um, but he does, and he helps me learn it, and then we move on. And hey, that's another thing in my arsenal um, that I can pull out when I need to.
Thank you.
And I agree with both of you. That's something we have to anticipate in life. You can't go through life without facing obstacles. And when you face that obstacle or barrier, how are you going to handle that? As a leader, I have mentors. I have other deans I need to call. I have some junior and senior faculty I need to call because there's no way you can know everything. And probably they have encountered that obstacle in the past and they can guide you. And I concur with my colleagues. You have to pray. Before I leave my car to enter Basil, I have a street of prayers I pray. When I enter my office, before I turn my computer, I'm asking God to help me fight or cope with any barrier or obstacle I'm going to encounter that day. It's going to be expected. Nobody go, if I can't see anybody that goes through life, no matter your position or how rich you are or how poor you are, you're going to encounter some barrier and some obstacle. And prayer, and then what has people done in the past, and talk to your mentors. That should guide you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely agree that faith is important. I couldn't do anything without my faith. That comes first and foremost. So absolutely, I agree. First and second and third, all those the people who've gone before me. That yeah, without God, it'd be impossible to do anything. And I tell the students, I can tell how far along you are when if when I have a chance to hear about and learn about your faith level. If you're at the place where you don't believe there is a higher power, then I know you're a first year student. By the time you get to your fourth year, you may, I don't know who you might call on, but you call it on somebody because you realize you can't go through this by yourself. But the other thing, the other source of strength for me is family. I have a lot of strong women in my family, and they face barriers, and often they face barriers that were more steep than mine. And so I gained great confidence that if my great grandmother could get through slavery, and my great grandmama could get through sharecropping and working on somebody else's field for little or no pay, and if my mom could raise 5 kids and have a husband that had a terminal illness and still go on to earn her collegiate degrees and be, a source of strength and support for all of her thousands of patients, then what is a little bit of a heal for me? Right? If I can because they did. And I have that same strength that runs through me, that same DNA. So I look a lot, I gain a lot of strength from looking at the women who've already overcome hills and mountains. I look at them and I say, okay, if God could get them through it, then God can help me with this. And so my faith and my family are really important.
Wow, that's
And
great.
I think I can't really say too much of that because everyone said it all. I believe faith is the most important, as we all said, and that's without a doubt. It has gotten me through a lot of things, some down spirals and some up spirals, but he still kept me, and I'm level, so I'm happy about that. In the same sense, my family. I'll say my mother was a woman of a lot of firsts in her day and age. And around where I'm from, she's well known for her accomplishments. And kind of falling behind her with her same name kind of leads and has some expectations of you stepping into those shoes and carrying your own torch and make your own place in this world. But I think some of the things something that I'm an optimistic. So I'm approach something irregardless with the mindset that something good comes out of this. So I always say it's a silver lining somewhere. It might have been the worst experience, but what did you get from it? There is something that you were meant to get from it. And I always keep that in my mind. And it helps me get through some of those harder times and those difficult times. And those times where you get into spaces and sometimes people may look like I sat down at a panel today, and after the panel, the guy next to me, who was a provost, but much older than me, was said, I stepped on the podium and he looked and he said, "Oh, who's this young lady next to me and where is she at and what is she doing?" And was really surprised that I was a dean somewhere. So I was like, yeah. And I think the part for me in that is that you have proven you didn't get this far without proving that you can do something and that you can do what is needed to be at the next level. And so when you get those hard days and you're sitting there like, Lord, what did I get myself into? Can I do this? You can step back and say, you've done it already, or you've taken the steps to get this far. That just means that you're learning and getting more steps to go to the next place, wherever that may be in that space that you're in. And so keep that mindset.
Wow, thank you. Look, this conversation, I'll try to make sure I don't ask many questions. I might ask you 2 or 3 other questions, and then we can let people go have dinner. But from this conversation about overcoming barrier, I have heard you mention, I did hear optimism from Dr. Armwood, and I did hear faith, prayers, and we know the landscape of higher education is shifting very fast. It is moving. Maybe in the past it was moving at the speed of sound. Now it is moving at the speed of light. And we know with such movement, it is very challenging for someone to stay grounded, to stay adaptive, to be optimistic, especially when you are leading through moments of uncertainty. I know this country we live in is going through, it is not because the warring is elsewhere that we don't feel the impact here. It is a period of uncertainty. I would just like you to talk to me, to talk to the audience about how you stay grounded, how you stay adaptive, how you still maintain this optimism in your leadership role.
I think for me, it's again, there's something in an ancient manuscript about, when I look back, that you can see all the ways that not only God has been faithful, going back to faith, but how when you persevere, when you keep going, as Dr. Armwood says, so there's some silver lining, some good comes from this. And so I gain strength from all the things I've gone through, all of the other challenges that I've already overcome. And then the other way that I think we gain strength and that we remain balanced is we continue to have people pour in our lives that we can trust, right? So Dr. Nadu mentioned mentoring. That's really important. Having a family and a life outside of this is also important. Those people tend to keep you grounded because they tend to be people you trust that tell you the truth about yourself. And I think always being open, to constructive criticism is helpful. Knowing that you don't know everything, I don't care how you ascend. There are some people who can still lend their expertise and give you some insight and some wisdom as you go along your way. And then you just share that with the other people who are coming behind you. I think what keeps me optimistic, Dr. Armwood mentioned that as well, being optimistic, is now I've been in education long enough that my former students are now in places of authority. So now if I go into some of these halls of education, I can look across the room, and there's a former student who now is a department head or a dean or a provost or the leader of a Fortune 500 company. And you think, wow, I remember the first day you got here. Now look, now I'm not the only one in the room. Talk about transformational leadership. Now, because of Tuskegee, because of schools like HBCUs, and because of other people who've poured in to these lives, it is changing. And even you hear about all the things that are going on, but we are still moving forward because we know that this present time doesn't define us. It's just a moment, and you keep moving forward. And as you do that, then you keep making a significant and positive impact. So I'm grounded by the fact that there were people who poured into me. They told me about their struggles, so I had the benefit of their memory and their success. And then I've gone through my own hills and battles. When I was at a certain school I won't mention, I was often mistaken for the custodian. I was often mistaken. Once I was stopped by the police because I didn't look like I lived there, or I was stopped on campus by the police because I didn't look like I belonged there, right? And so, there are always those hills to fight, but you don't let that stop you, and you don't let that dissuade you from going forward. You keep going forward. And as you go forward, the data itself, the things that you're able to overcome, the progress that you make tells its own story. And then that changes it as you go, but you keep moving. You don't let any of that stop you. Because look at all the people who poured into your life, all the people who've invested in you because they believe in you. So you let that be the wind, beneath your wings and push you forward.
Yes.
I'm going to add, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'll keep it short. A lot of things that Dr. Alexander said are what I was going to say. Mentorship, having someone that you could talk to who's been in the same spaces that are even people that are more knowledgeable of how things are evolving in higher ed because they may have a closer ear to the political standpoint. And, now higher ed has been highly and even more influenced by the politics of which we have in the US. And so in that nature, you have to be adaptive. You have to be adapted to sustain. And what we've realized as HBCUs, as we realize as in I'll just say HBCUs, as we realize this, we have to understand that we are going to have to evolve. And all the leaders under the president and whichever level that you're supposed to be a leader to has to evolve as well, because the climate of how things were done before and how they will be in the future will change. It will always change when leadership changes. And we have to be able to adapt and be flexible to that. So mentorship. And then the other thing I would say is a safe space. Surround yourself with people who don't just take from you, but pour into you. Right. And that keeps you grounded. As long as you have people who invest in you, it will keep you grounded.
I was thinking, what makes a house happy? Most of the time they said if the wife is happy, the husband have to be happy. So as a leader, I want to make sure the faculty and staff, including custodians, are happy. Because there's nothing like walking in a building and everybody saying good morning, everybody's smiling. That brightens up your day. That makes you want to be there. I don't want an environment that when people wake up in the morning, oh, am I going back there again? That's not the type of leadership I want. I want people to even wake up on Saturday and thinking it's still Friday, they want to come to Basil O'Connor or want to come to John Andrew, where we have the allied health faculty. So involving people keeps things moving. I always said, you can't drive your car from anywhere to anywhere without all the parts working. And no parts is more important than the other. We may think engine is better than the tire. You can get you a new engine. If you have flat tires, you're not going anywhere. So including and being respectful. See yourself as a servant. That's my priority. And respectful of people working at. I always have this philosophy. Just because I'm a dean doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody in SONA. But in an organization, somebody has to lead. And at this time, it hasn't to be me. And I'm still who I am. So that's how I look at that. I want to embrace all faculty to make them comfortable so they can come to me. I like students when they come in, oh, Dr. Ned, did you have any snack? Not that I want to spend too much money on snack, but they are to be approachable and things like that. That's what I want to see. And I agree with the other deans, what they said. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other addition?
Okay,
If
I
not,
concur.
okay, thank you. Let's jump to the next question. I know we press for time, but if you can keep, I would like to that after we finish the questions, our audience might want to comment or ask questions, maybe certain questions I did not ask, but I would just like to ask you two little questions. The first of the last question is, in the spirit of Dr. Mark Anthony Brown's Renaissance, if you could boldly redesign one aspect of higher education to better serve students and society, what would it be? And why does that change inspire you?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I'll make it more affordable. I think we all know why on that, but make it more affordable so that more students can have access. And that's my opinion on that.
And I think I would look at another kind of free and look at freedom. I think today, in more recent years, students have not been given the freedom to think, to challenge themselves, to fail, to come up with their own ideas. I think we've just done a lot of prescribed learning for the sake of, making everybody uniform. But we know that innovation comes from diversity of thought, diversity of experiences. And so I think that I'm going back to a space where we not only support that we allow time for it. We talk about maker spaces and we talk about free electives, but most of those things aren't free, they're prescribed. So I think giving students the freedom as a part of their curriculum to involve themselves in things that inspire them, in addition to giving them the foundations of learning.
And I agree. I think access is still an issue. There are lots of people who want to be in the academy but don't know how. They still don't have pioneers in their areas that can show them the way. So I think we could definitely benefit from opening up more pathways to higher education. And to somebody else's point earlier, more ways to do this. It doesn't have to be done the way it traditionally was, but let's be novel about and innovative about how to make sure more people who want to be here can be here.
And I need to add, there are people that want to be here, but they can't be here, not necessarily for money. I'm hearing from parents when they bring their children in for sightseeing and they realize there's no hospital around, they're not comfortable keeping their children at Tuskegee. So that's apart from lowering costs, hospital and the healthcare facility is another thing that is going to improve, that is going to help us have more students and then do what we need to do. Coming from those people coming from Atlanta, coming from Los Angeles, you're looking around, especially if you have a child that has a brittle diabetic or asthma, any medical condition. They look around, oh no, if something happens at 8 p.m., where is my daughter going to be? Where is my son going to be? Oh, I'm not coming. So apart from working on improving the academic side, we also go back again and look at the non-academic side. Healthcare facility, no matter how small, is very significant to sustain any university.
Thank you. Any other contribution on that question? If not, let me run to the very last question. I know we pressed for time. Okay. And this is the last question before I open the floor. And when I open the floor, we have only 5. We'll take 1 or 2 questions from the floor, and that will be it. Now, I am so interested. I know every leader wants to lead and leave a legacy. And the question is, when future generations look back on your leadership, what impact do you hope they will see? What legacy do you aim at living at Tuskegee?
Honesty and integrity. Honesty and integrity. The late Dr. Hepner Miriam once said, you have to grow your own leader. So as a leader, I'm already looking around who is going to be the next dean of SONA. Mentoring that person, sending that person to conferences, having that person speak in any academic proceeding. So encouraging, not just teaching the regular way, mentoring. So when you're out, there is another person that is going to take over from you. And I often tell students, when I came to Tuskegee, it was accredited. The School of Nursing was accredited by the National League for Nursing accrediting body. And it's approved by Alabama State Board of Nursing. When I leave, it will still be accredited and it's going to be approved by Alabama. OT program is going to be accredited. That's the legacy I want to leave. So the programs can sustain itself, can continue to move forward and things like that. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Thank you.
I think for me, Dr. Indy, I'll end where I started. I hope that I have a legacy of someone who committed to service to the university and the people that we serve as an institution within our communities. And I hope that I leave with my students and others the wherewithal and the drive to know that it's our responsibility for us to take care of ourselves and move ourselves forward in terms of our students, our young people, our families, and our communities.
Thank you.
For me, empowering other things is going to be really important. There are a lot of people who started their journeys who fell by the wayside along the way. And I want one of the things that they say about any leadership that I provided is that, I made it. I didn't think I was going to. I didn't think anybody was on my side, but Dr. Alexander was an advocate for me. And because of something she said or something she did, I made it when I didn't think I had a chance. And because I made it, I helped other people make it. So I hope what Tuskegee is able to have as a result of my tenure here is a population of students who can say, I made it because you had these great leaders on campus that were advocates for me.
Thank you.
I'll go. And the legacy I think that I want to leave is just one of innovation and also a leader who provided opportunity, increased opportunity. And so by the time the class that came in, and then wherever I should be when I should leave, the class that are in that last year may graduate and the older class come back and say, I wish we had that opportunity. And I'm glad that they're getting this at a undergraduate level and also building programs. I want to leave the legacy of starting programs that align with the 2 that we have now and taking the school to a college. That is the legacy I would like to have while I'm at Tuskegee.
Thank you.
And for me, beyond changing the negative narrative around what it means to be an educator, I want to leave a legacy of, care and concern for students that, you know, you see celebrities a lot of times say, "Oh, I had a teacher who told me I was never gonna make it, and I just want to show them I made it." And it's you hear about the good ones too, but you always hear those, the bad stories. And so I want our students to be able to go out and provide excellent education to their students so that when the students remember them, they will have great things to say about them. And then to also be able to educate, to stress the importance of education at every level, and where you can come to Tuskegee, be at Tuskegee and be educated from birth through the doctorate. That's the legacy I want to leave.
Thank you very much. I wanted to give the floor for Q&A, but one of the panelists is pressed for time, has a flight to catch, and I would like to give the vote of thanks before I open the floor for Q&A. So, to my very own esteemed deans, I just want to say thank you all for your wisdom, your vision, and energy that you've shared with us today. To say the least, your leadership is paving new pathways, not only for your colleges, but I see it for the future of higher education as a whole. And I pray that may your stories inspire us all as you lead with courage, creativity, and heart. Long live TU Renaissance. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you have a flight to catch, that's fine. Let's open the floor for Q&A. We'll take a few questions. Raise your hands if you have a question or a comment to make. Raise hands and ask your question. No questions, no comments. Well, give our esteemed deans a round of applause. You might react. I want to see the applause is coming. Thank you all once again. And it was a delight. Please, I look forward to another series like this. And I hope you too, you did like this participation. I look forward to it. You have a blessed and wonderful one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr.
Dr.
Andy.
Andy.
Thanks, Dr. Andy.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.